to Professor Imogen Taylor and Susie Bray, Professor Susie Bray, who is online, and Jill Scholl, who is our lead of Services and the Carers Advisory Group. They are going to spend tight, precise 20 minutes to talk about, introduce about our department briefly, and to talk about how the department connecting the local and the global. Thank you.
Thank you, Lisa, and Barry, and everybody for being here. While we get the slides up, I'm Imogen Taylor, one of the professors of social work here. Susie Bray, who, as you see, is online, is unfortunately not able to be with us today, but you can just imagine, those of you who know Susie, that she's actually here with me. She's a very close colleague, and with Jill. Okay, thank you. Okay, so our topic is, what does social work, international social work, mean to us? And I guess in a way we've answered that question by saying it's about bringing together the global and the local. And what I thought, I'd just start off by giving you just one piece of information about me. There are people in this room who I know quite well, other people I don't know at all. But I think my interest in this topic was very much shaped by the fact that I lived in Canada for 20 years, in Toronto. I did my social work training there. I went for 2 years, I stayed for 20. And I'm still very engaged in social work education in North America. So, you know, in some ways, international social work is something that I've grown up with in my professional work. And expanded it hugely, and we'll come on to that a bit later in terms of some of the ways that we've expanded it in our department. So, what I'm going to do now is introduce you just very briefly to some areas of what's happening here. Heather, okay? Sorry, you can do it. Each of these broad areas, which are ways that we bring together the global and the local, and I've just illustrated this with 3 examples, or 2 in some cases, examples of how we do this. This is by no means a finite list. We certainly wouldn't have time for that today, but it's to give you an idea, a flavour, to pick up Michelle's term, of what we do. So I'm going to start with, and I'm only going to talk about one of the examples on the list and try and cover a span of people, a span of projects as we go through. So research projects with international partners. I'm going to start with that, and I'm going to start with the first one on that list because Melissa Nolas, who is an early career researcher, that's a technical term, it means within 5 years of having got her PhD, Michelle landed a very significant, very important European Research Council grant called Connectors. And this is an international study of children's participation in public life. And she's going to be comparing what happens here in London with what happens in Greece and what happens in India. She has partners in those countries. This is all set up. It's already going. It started January this year. It's hot off the press. I can see Melissa nodding. I'm tempted to say people stand up, but I'll be told off for that because it's going to take too much time. But they are, all the people I'm talking about are here. So this is a very exciting project for us to be involved in. And it's a flagship project, so we're extremely excited about it. Okay. And you'll see here, I'm just going to refer to Janet Broddy, who you're going to hear from later, who's actually in the Department of Education. But that actually speaks to our interdisciplinary work within the school in relation to children and families particularly. And Rachel Thompson, who I'm sure is here somewhere, I haven't seen her yet, who's head of the Research Centre for Childhood, Centre for Innovation Research in Childhood and Youth, that we know as CIRCE, across University Centre, located in social work. So we've moved beyond thinking this is a social work enterprise, this is an interdisciplinary enterprise. It's not even just social science, it's moved much broader into other disciplines that we can engage with and learn from. For example, information technology in relation to childhood. Okay. So, the next slide is another area of work. You've seen some of our success in terms of achieving research projects. Now this is how we go about it. We started to use the word platform. I think we're going to get tired of that word soon, but anyway, it's a useful word. We build interdisciplinary platforms. This is collaborative partnerships from which we then reach out to partners and funders and others in terms of getting our bids together. And these are always long-term, very resource-intensive processes. So I'm going to take the top one on that list, and that's Elaine Charland, who is here. And she's developing a collaborative project led by someone from Jerusalem. And this is interesting because it involves 9 different country partners. She's got seed corn funding from the International Association on Social Work, and the focus of that is going to be about social work academics' input into national and international policy. Really important area. And certainly when I came back from Canada to this country, I was horrified at how social workers didn't seem to talk to government, and government didn't seem to talk to social work academics, whereas I come from a context where that was every day. So it's interesting, very culturally different. I'm quickly going to mention Charles Waters because Charles is here, and Charles is building the new research centre on adult well-being. And you can see up here an example of the different research partners in different countries that we are working with. And Ria is also here, and you'll see a bit more about Ria later. Now, coming back closer to home, one of our most interesting and important partnerships and long-standing partnership is with our user carer network. And I'm going to introduce Jill Scholl as the coordinator of the network and invite you, Jill, to say something about the international and the local.
Thank you very much, Imogen. My name is Jill Scholl, and I am the service user and carer coordinator, and I know a lot of the faces here, and it's lovely to see you here too. We were working, I think we brought it up, have we? Oops, next one. There we are. Power Us. That is the organisation that I have been involved with. And I really wanted to say, well, what did we bring to Power Us? We've got leaflets on the organisation out in the foyer, which you're very welcome to take. But just to say that what we felt we brought to Power Us, the network, was we shared the ways that we involve the service user and carer, how we bring the voice of the service user and carer to the teaching and learning of social work students. For example, in the selection process, we sit on panels to assess a student's suitability to come to the university, and we look for the skills and attributes that are important to us. So we bring a third dimension, and I think that is our value to the courses. It is a third dimension. At the assessments, we listen very carefully to their presentations to look for the humanity that is so important for a social work student. And when we read the portfolios, we see how they record their work with service users and carers, as this tells us so much about the student's ability to reflect and learn. And when we teach, because we are teaching as well here at the university, as most of you know, we don't see ourselves as victims. We're not victims. We bring our perspectives of our lived experiences, good and not so good, into the classroom to share appropriately and constructively with the students what we have valued in working with a social worker and why. And I think it's that we brought to Power Us to share what the UK and the University of Sussex was producing, and this is what we were sharing with other countries. Thank you.
And Jill, I just wonder whether you could tell us when you first started to work with us at Sussex.
It's been about 9 years now, actually. Part-time, mainly from home, because that fits in with my caring responsibilities. So quite a long time, and we've seen tremendous inroads, if you like, and it really has evolved from those early days to where we are now, where we are really embedded in all of the courses, and we're involved in all the meetings, the advisory groups. It's a really, the voice of the service user and carer is definitely being heard.
Thanks, Jill. And a lot of the credit for that should go to leadership from Jill. Okay, let's go on now to a slightly different field. Okay, this is another area where we bring together the global and the local and think about how to do it. We've got 5 professors in the Department of Social Work, and coincidentally, really, we didn't set out to plan it this way. We, all of us, edit a journal, a social work journal. So, starting with Children and Society, that's Rachel Thompson, Journal of Social Work Practice, our new appointment of Gillian Roosh, which we're very excited about. Social Work Education, myself and Michelle have been working on that for 5 years now. European Journal of Social Work, which is edited by Susie Bray, and Migration, Health and Social Care, which Charles Waters founded and is now editing. Now, and we've got other members of our staff group who are involved in those editorial boards, because those are ways very much of bringing together the global and the local, and important ways to do that. And I think here, I'm going to just talk briefly about something dear to my heart, which is about internationalising the curriculum. In social work in this country, we are pretty driven by national agendas. And if we're not careful, it means we adopt a kind of tunnel vision about that. Whereas what we're trying to do is look much more broadly in our curriculum at what's happening in other countries. So as an example, Lisa Chen, this is on my left, who is program leader for our MA in social work now. She undertakes with her social work students a comparative analysis of policy and practice, and asks the students to think global at local, and what does that mean? And how do we each engage in that? And you'll see other kinds of examples there from our curricula. Teacher and student mobility. Now, we hear a lot about social work mobility, increasing number of articles now about social workers coming here from other countries, working here, going to other countries, working there. There's probably people in this room really interested in doing that, or have already done it and come here from another country, which I think is can only enrich who we are and what we do. What we do at our programme level, I'm going to use the top example here, which is led by Russell Whiting, who leads our BA in social work, and he's co-facilitating with Janet Boddy undergraduate visits with colleagues in Holland and Rotterdam. And Dutch students came to visit us in 2013, and this year Sussex students will go back to Rotterdam. So, and that's funded by government and an EU initiative actually called Erasmus funding. So this is a funded initiative which says something about the priority that's given. International doctoral student visits. This is slightly different kind of visiting at another level, but many of the same issues come up at that level as they do at undergraduate and master's level. So at this level, what I'm going to just refer to here is the bottom example, and I know that the student concerned is in the room. So we have a student who's recently arrived from Mumbai, who is funded by the Commonwealth Institute she has a scholarship from them to come here for a year as part of her doctoral studies in Mumbai, and she's interested in disability in higher education. She will be researching this topic in this country and taking that knowledge back to Mumbai, and at the same time we will be learning from Mumbai. And the Tata Institute for Social Science is a program that we've been, it's one of the top programs, probably the top social science program in India, and it's one that we're very interested in continuing to build a relationship with. They have a long-standing relationship with LSE. So we are the newcomers, we're the competitors, and we have to kind of bite that bullet in terms of how we rise to have the same kind of status as LSE, but because LSE closed social work. So, that was their biggest mistake, really. Okay. And now, I want to go on now. I'm about to finish. International doctoral student visits to Sussex. Now, this is where, I'm moving on. International doctoral work. So we have people on our staff group who've undertaken doctoral work in other countries. And Dave Orr, another early career researcher, who researched mental health amongst indigenous communities in the Peruvian highlands. I've been to the Peruvian highlands. They are amazing, and it's just fantastic. We've got someone here who knows about mental health in the Peruvian highlands. And David's work has attracted international attention, particularly in psychiatry. So lastly, Barry will be pleased to hear this. I'm getting to the end. Oh, I've got to sign now, 3 minutes. I will finish. Many of us have international appointments in other countries, and at different levels. So, Ria, who's Ria Magdalenslik, who is a newly appointed senior lecturer in social work here, has a visiting lectureship with the University of Ljubljana in Slovenia. And I'll just pick on one other on that list, Susie, who's not here, who's done a lot of work with the University of Gothenburg and is still doing work with the University of Gothenburg. So, a range of places that we have partnerships with, and I think I might just finish with the newest partnership, which is Charles Waters, who's introducing us to the Catholic University of Brasilia, and we're thinking, okay, yeah, that sounds really interesting. Charles is telling us they're very keen to develop a relationship with us, and we're trying to think, well, how do we get our heads around social work in Brazil? And we will. I'm confident of that. So I'm going to end on that very positive note, because that's a forward thinking about how the global is changing. Countries that are significant globally are changing, and we have to change with that as well. Thank you.
Thanks very much, Imogen and Jill, who have just very eloquently bigged up what we're doing on the social work front at Sussex globally, and given some free tourist advice as well. Which I don't know how well that goes down for busy social work practitioners at the back end of the estate just now. A lot of them are sitting in the room worrying about the kind of demanding cases that have been left behind this afternoon. So I just wanted to say before we move on to Isabel, which we will do in a minute, Isabel, just...
Shall I sit down?
Yes, please. Thank you. I wanted to remind us that it is the relationship between the local and the global. The people who are online with us today are global from our point of view locally, but of course we're global from their point of view locally too. So we have to think about ourselves as the work we're doing is part of this global combination. The other thing is that we all need to make a contribution, or we can make a contribution to the debates about these matters about living in tough times and about inequality, which is why we have set up the blog and the Twitter. And I think we rushed past that too quickly. So actually what I wanted to do is start involving people from the floor. And so actually we've asked Melissa to set up a blog and get people feeling that you guys are involved in this as well, rather than just being trying to talk about. And could you find Denise and get it to her for the Twitter?
Yes, Denise is right over there. Yes. You're next. Thank you, Barry. Thanks for this opportunity to just say a few words about the blog that was actually set up 2 years ago, I believe, in celebration of World Social Work Day. And at the time, never in my wildest dreams would I have thought that it would be such a kind of platform and public occasion to talk about the blog. And we've got some fantastic posts that are coming up, some up through the day. We've got some more coming tomorrow, what it's like to be a social worker in Taiwan, in France, social work entrepreneur in England, as well as from our service users and carers talking about why they love teaching on the MA and BA in social work. So lots of activity on the blog this week. I encourage and invite and cajole you all to come and contribute to the blog. It is part of a small effort here at Sussex to talk more publicly about what social work is like, both as a practice, education, research and lived experience from a service user and carer perspective. There are so many kind of negative representations around social work, and this is our very small effort to try and do something to crack those representations and put something more positive out there about social work. And I'm going to pass this on to Denise to talk about Twitter.
Yes, I haven't got much to say. I just want to reiterate what Melissa said about the blog. And for those of you that use Twitter, we have a dedicated hashtag for this event, and it's hashtag Sussex WSWD14. And Melissa and I have been trying to tweet about this event today. And it's a really good way of building, again, that international profile for what we're doing today. We've already had some questions asked around the event on Twitter. So for those of you that do tweet, please try and tweet that out.